Hey there, everyone. It's episode 4 of Real Estate Recess, and I am your host, Jennifer Schurter, here today to talk about a few things that are going on here in the real estate world in Oregon and the Portland, Oregon metro area. And most notably, today, we're going to be talking about who's actually moving to Oregon. Some of the answers to that question may or may not surprise you. We're going to break down what the US Census data from 2022 shows us. And then we're going to talk about, after that, CoreLogic's release of their 2024 forecast for what is going to possibly be happening here in the real estate world nationally. But we're going to talk about Oregon specifically with what they're saying. So stick with me. We're going to talk about that and a few other things. And if you're watching this replay, thanks for being here. And we'll look forward to seeing your comments. So anything that you see on here that we talk about, leave me a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. So as we're getting started, I have to apologize. I've had some major technical issues with my internet today. What a pain. I don't know what it is about internet at about noon where I'm at. I don't know if it's my provider. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, so if anything gets glitchy, my apologies in this, but let's get talking about what we're here to talk about today. So who is actually moving to Oregon? We are going to look at some census data. So, as you know, the census shows us who is not just who lives where or what populations are, but they do also track movement from state to state, which I thought was pretty interesting. And honestly, I broke down some of this data in my chicken scratch on my paper here. And what's interesting is I don't think that anybody's really going to be surprised at the state where the most people have moved from. And that would be our friends in California. So California takes the number one spot for folks who have moved here and relocated to Oregon. That's about 36,429 people. Now, there's a margin of error with that in the census data. That's roughly from this figure about 4,800 people. So it could really be anywhere from about 32,000 up to about 40,000 individuals who have moved to Oregon from California in as of the 2022 census. So very interesting to see. Does that seem like a lot of people to you from California, or does that seem about right? Or does it seem low? I just let me know what you think in the comments. So obviously that's no surprise. There's always a big discussion about Californians in Oregon and how the Californians are moving everywhere. I don't think Oregon is alone. There's a lot of Californians going to Texas and to other states as well. So the number 2 spot, I don't think is a surprise either. Number 2 is Washington. There's a lot of movement between Oregon and Washington. So about 25,000 people moved to Oregon with a margin of error of about 3,900 or about 4,000 individuals. So that could go either way, anywhere from 21 to 29,000, really accounting for that margin of error. And then following in that list, we'll just talk about the top 5 here is, so number 3, we're looking at Idaho, but there's a big difference between number 2 and number 3, since Idaho, according to the census, only brought about 7,500 people to Oregon. Number 4 is Arizona. So 6,100 people roughly moved to Oregon from Arizona. And taking out number 5, the number 5 spot on this list is Colorado, with about 4,800 people moving to Oregon as of the 2022 census. So I don't know. What do you think about that? Did you move here from another state? Are you an out-of-state transplant here in Oregon? Let us know where you're from. Leave a comment. Would love to hear from you. So another thing I thought was surprising was I wrote down several different states on these notes, and there's some surprises on here and some that aren't, but a big surprise to me was that we had about 3,700 people move here from the state of New York. So interesting. That's a big move. You think about going from a state like New York on the complete other side of the country, coming out here to the Pacific Northwest in Oregon. Texas is on the list, of course. We've got about 3,500 people who moved here from Texas. And, some of the usual suspects you might expect, like Hawaii, Montana, Utah, some movement here in the western states. So yeah, interesting information to see who's been making their moves here to Oregon. So another point I thought was pretty interesting is we've got about 128,000 people total who moved to Oregon from other states. Is that a lot of people? Well, It is a lot of people. But let's also consider how many people left Oregon to go to other states. So, according to the census data, about 157,000 people left the state of Oregon to go to other states. Namely, the number one state they went to was Washington. This number two state they went to was Texas, and Arizona, and number three was Arizona. Sorry, number one, Washington. Number two was California. Number three was Texas. Number four was Arizona. So interesting movement. And why do you think people have selected the states they did? I have my thoughts on that, but I want to know what you think. Leave me a comment about why you think folks left Oregon for the states they went to. But that was 157,000 people. So if we gained 128,000 roughly, and about 157,000 people left, that actually means there's fewer people in Oregon. So I don't know, interesting. I want to know what you think. Leave me a comment. But that's what's going on with who's coming and going from the state of Oregon based on the US Census data. Now, another thing I thought was interesting to play on that a little bit is that Redfin actually has an interesting tool and a resource that they provide that talks about who is looking to move to an area. So I pulled this up from that from their site. So let me get this pulled up here for you. This is going to show just for one particular town here in the area, and that's Canby. The information was all about the same. When I looked at Oregon City, when I looked at West Lynn, when I looked at other places. So bear with me. I'm sorry, this is not working right now. It is not coming up. Hopefully this does not freeze on me and lose this whole stream. My apologies again for the technical problems today. Don't you just love technology? It's so great when it works. We depend on it so much. We want we just want everything to work. But here we are looking at the spinning rainbow circle of death on my computer. So that is clearly not going to work. So let's just say if I were to tell you where people are looking to move to Canby or Clackamas County, some of those regions, since this is not showing up, that those areas would be California. So a lot of the Bay Area are looking at areas here in our general region, Clackamas County, Portland Metro, people from Washington, and surprisingly, even some East Coast markets in there. Would love to be able to show that to you, but that is just not going to work for me today. So anyway, hopefully you are at least seeing something. So let's move on here. And let's talk about CoreLogic, if everybody is still there. CoreLogic released their forecast for 2024 and what they anticipate the real estate market is going to do in the coming year. They also talked about how things landed coming out of 2023 for the real estate market in general. So some interesting points in there. And I do have some images I'd love to share if I can get past this spinning circle of rainbow death on my computer and get that connection to come back. So let's break this down. So a main point I have highlighted on this article, and if you're interested in seeing this, I'm happy to link this in the notes here on YouTube. So come and check that link out and read this for yourself, and let me know what your thoughts are in the comments as I go through this. So home prices, according to CoreLogic, increased nationwide. That includes distressed sales, and they increased about 5.5%. And so that's looking at December 2023 versus the previous year. And think about what happened in the fourth quarter of 2022. We were coming out of the hot real estate market of 2022, and those interest rates started to go up as the year went on. So we hit the fourth quarter, so October through December of 2022, and the real estate market really quieted down, I think, in our area. So obviously, things improved a little bit quarter four of 23 versus quarter four of 22. Interest rates were about the same. People, I think, were coming around to the idea that interest rates are where they are, and if they need to make a move, and this is important to them, that they'll find a way to make a move. But so it's interesting to see that if we look at December to January, December yeah, December of 23 to January, home prices were down just a little bit, 0.2%. So very minimal change between December of 23 and January. What they're saying also is if we look at what can we expect going into 2024. So they're saying by December of 24, if we compare the previous year, that we would be up about 2.8%. So CoreLogic thinks that by the time we get to the end of the year, nationally, we will see prices up about 2.8%. So interesting forecast from them. It's not a huge amount of growth, but that's national. Some areas might, specific states and specific areas might see different patterns of growth, might see more, might see less. Another interesting, let me get to this here, and I'm sorry, I can't show you these graphics. I'd love to have these up there for you. There's an interesting map on here that talks about the specific states and who actually saw the greatest amount of growth. And this map, I would say, shows each state, and it's kind of a heat map that shows the percentage of change year over year in growth in home prices. So another interesting thing is that no state saw home price declines in 2023. So everything is up. Even if it's up just a little bit, it's still up. So Oregon, you can't see it. I can't put it on my screen for you. I'm sorry to say everything is completely frozen in here. But I will find a way to get these images linked in there for you. So year over year, Oregon is actually in the 3 to 5% change. It's in like a light red pink color. There are states like Maine, Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois, other states that are in the dark red, which means 7+%. There are states that are 5 to 7. Texas has seen 1% or less, for instance. So interesting things there. Nothing is negative. That's the key takeaway there. Okay. What markets are at risk for a decline in 2024, according to CoreLogic? Is Oregon on that list? Well, let's talk about that. The top markets at risk for a home price decline, meaning prices will actually decline and be less in 2024. CoreLogic says the Spokane and Spokane Valley, West Palm Beach, Tampa, Atlanta, and Daytona Beach, Florida. Those are the 5 markets, or the top 5 markets that are at risk for annual price declines going into 2024. That is in Oregon. That's not us. Thankfully, I think we are going to be looking at positive price growth in 2024. At least that's what CoreLogic says. Okay, so that was a lot of numbers. That was a lot of stuff that I just was able to relay to you without any images. My apologies. Sorry for technology being such a pain. Let me know what you think about that. What do you think out there as a consumer as you're looking at all of this information and saying, gosh, if I'm assessing this from a consumer standpoint, do I agree with this from what I see? Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about that. Okay, so the last thing I had on my list to talk about with you today is an interesting piece about weather. One of the most common questions I get asked from people who are looking to move to Oregon from another state is, what's the weather actually like there in the winter? Do you get lots of snow here in the Willamette Valley? Is that something we really have to be worried about? And speaking from somebody who's lived in Oregon and in this part of Oregon my entire life, I can say with pretty good certainty that we usually get our 1 to 2 winter events every year that bring us some snow or some ice or things like that. As a matter of fact, just a couple weeks ago, we had that ice storm and that cold snap that we had. I might go so far as to say, check the box for the year of having our winter event. So, and the last one we had was an ice storm. And then a few years ago, we had an ice storm that impacted the area. And I think this one was no small thing either that came to the region. So parts of Portland, I know, received a lot of damage from trees falling and high winds with that ice. It's just a pretty nasty combination. But what I will say is the Clackamas County has offered a resource to help folks who were impacted by trees that fell onto their house. Again, I would show you this, but nothing is seeming to come up here. Everything's still completely frozen. I don't even know if I'm appearing on your screen or if you're just hearing a voice on a black screen here. Um, what I will say is that they are offering property tax relief if you can show and prove that your home was impacted by a tree falling onto your house. So, again, if I could show this to you, I would absolutely bring this up and tell you a little bit more about how you could get that resource. But it is something to think about, since obviously, when a tree falls on your house, it's a pretty big impact and quite a big financial one at that. So hopefully that can add some relief to some folks out there who own homes and had this happen to them. So I'm honestly going to leave this here where it's at right now with all these technical difficulties I've had. Hopefully this information was useful to you, but just in case you didn't catch it, my name is Jennifer Schurter. I'm a realtor with Real Broker and I'm from the Clackamas County area here in Oregon. It's a beautiful place. And if you're looking to make a move around the Portland suburbs and are considering this part of our little corner of the world, look me up. I'd love to chat with you, but otherwise, we'll see you soon. And thanks for watching. Hey there, everybody. Are you there? Sorry about that. Having some awful technical difficulties. I don't know what it is about my internet provider and this time of day, but for some reason, for the last couple of weeks, every day at noon, the internet connection absolutely dies on me, and I'm gonna have to give them a call. But I have no idea where any of this ended. I have no idea what anybody finished seeing or what was actually shown. So I don't know what to tell you here. So we talked about some good stuff. I just kept going. I don't know if anybody actually saw it, but um, I'm hoping to maybe just start over with this and maybe record something that I can put here that covers this information. But otherwise, thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. Thanks to these technical difficulties, I'm going to end this stream. But hey, that's showbiz, am I right? So if nothing else got through, I'm Jennifer Schurter with Real Broker, and I'm a real estate agent here in the Portland, Oregon metro region, and specifically the Clackamas County area. And if you're looking to make a move around these parts, I hope you'll look me up. But otherwise, I will see you next Thursday on my next real estate recess. Have a good week, and thanks for watching.